Today we're going to be discussing your infinite power, or the Christ power within you. Today we're going to discover how Jesus became the Christ, and how you too can discover the Christ Spirit within you and begin living the more abundant life. We all know that we've all been created in the image and likeness of God. Jesus understood this so much that he said that when you see me, you see the Father. So how is it that Jesus came into this realization? He was so confident in his abilities that he said that those who believe in him, greater works would they do. So creators, my question to you is, why is it that we're not living the more abundant life? The God-filled life allows us to live the more abundant life. Many of us would confuse this with religion. I beg to differ. What I'm expressing to you now, creators, is a relationship, a divine relationship with you understanding who you are and whose you are. With God, all things are possible, and it is God's Spirit within us that allows us to live the more abundant life. But we must first and foremost learn to commune with the God Spirit in us. We must begin to talk to God face to face. Allow him to fill our entire being and consciousness, and we will have the power, the very essence of which is love. And that will cause all people to whom we come in contact with to glorify our Father who is in heaven, or the spiritual realm. Our Father within us. It is he who wills to carry out his good purpose through us. For it is the Father within us that supplies all of our needs according to his riches in the Christ Spirit. We can request of him anything that we desire: wisdom, wellness, health, achievement, abundance, and go forth in full assurance that with God in us, nothing is impossible. There is, in fact, a criteria, and that criteria is this: that we must begin to seek ye first the kingdom of God within us and his righteousness. Now, what does righteousness mean? Many of us have taken this term righteousness and made it religious. But the truth of the matter is that righteousness means simply this: as it should be. So when we begin living as we should live, then all the other things will be added to us, the things that we desire. God says that he desires to give us the desires of our heart. All things are meant for the fulfilling of God's desire in us. God says that all things work together for the good for those who are called according to his purpose. What is God's divine purpose? God's divine purpose for you and for me is to be in relationship. That we be in relationship with God the Father, and that we be in relationship with his creation. As we walk in a loving relationship with all things that God has created, then we're living out our purpose on the earth. So when we speak about the desires of our heart, we're speaking about those God-given desires of spirit. We're not talking about the ego or the flesh, because see, many of those desires do not line up with who we are. Those desires tend to be more self-centered and not Christ-centered, that Christ Spirit within you. But as we begin to understand who we are and whose we are, as we begin to understand that we are linked with the Creator of the universe, and that all things are possible for those who believe, we will begin to walk in a power unimaginable by the human race. Now, the question is, where does that power that we seek come from? It comes from the source. That power is for the purpose of God fulfilling his purpose in the earth. Again, being in a relationship walking in love one with the other, and also being in relationship with our divine Creator. If then the Christ consciousness placed within our hands the power and the ability to achieve all things whatsoever we desire, it must be the one development that we all seek for. We all must get into a place where we're seeking to be in oneness with God, or Christ consciousness. The early church was so powerful that men and women who saw what we call today Christians living out God's purpose in the earth, they began to call them Christ-like or Christians. So they were basically duplications of their master. Today the term Christian does not have the power that it once had, but we could, in fact, revive that Christ spirit within each one of us. And today's lesson is to give you the tools so that you can begin living a life of power. So much is written about the desire of consciousness or our oneness with the Father. So we realize that this is a very important subject. The question is, how does one obtain oneness with the allness that we call God or Father? Jesus again said, when you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And that needs also to be our cries, that God in me is the hope of the world. And God is seeking vehicles and vessels in which to live out His life force in these vessels. How does one become a vessel of the Creator of the universe? The good news of Jesus, that God has come incarnate in man, and He seeks to live out His purpose through you and through me. So how does one awaken the universal power within them? How does one begin to find himself, herself in relationship with the divine Creator of the universe? How does one step into his or her Christ consciousness? First thing, you must form a habit of mentally and vocally, when alone, affirming frequently every day that I and my Father are one. God dwells in me. God has full control of all of my members and is now doing His pleasure and purpose in my life. I am a co-worker with God, and He is pleased with me this day. And everything I do is for His good pleasure, and as a result, I experience my heartfelt desires daily. God is manifesting in me His purpose. God is for me. God is around me. God acts as me. God is in me. God works through me. God is the hope in me. I and my Father are one. Remember, you and your Father are one. And as you begin to practice the presence of God within you, you will begin to experience nothing short of miracles in your life, in the lives of those around you. Remember this, that only you can create your perfect world. Not God, not man. Only you can create your perfect world. Until we speak next time, have a great and prosperous week.